military options do we have to deal with either of these crises? To discuss, former U.S. and Navy fighter pilot Leah Gabriel, a Fox News correspondent, and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Steve Bucci, a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Let me start with you, Leah. Listen, bottom line is almost everyone is hopeful, but almost everyone is saying that sanctions, particularly at this point, when you have someone like Kim who wants has a nuclear bomb and will not give it up, some military action is going to have to be used.
Well, you know, if you listen to the Japanese leader, he's basically saying that North Korea is doing what Iran did and just buying time while we're supposedly negotiating and using these sanctions. I mean, I think when you look at sanctions, I think our country as a whole would have to make a decision to really be willing. I mean, first of all, we'll see how these sanctions go, but I think to really just choke out North Korea, we'd have to be willing to stop trade with China, and that would be something that our country would take a hit on, and we would have to make that national decision. But if you listen to what Secretary Mattis is saying, he is saying that we do have a military option. We've always been hearing, oh, there's no military option to strike North Korea without thousands of people getting killed in Seoul. Secretary Mattis is saying, no, we actually do have an option that's on the table. And from my experience working in the military, we always have different on-the-shelf options. The one that I would see, based on just completely open source information, and there's a lot of information that we don't know about as far as options, but just open source information in my experience is that we would do something like a massive strike against North Korea, where we would first have our ships located in positions to knock down any missiles. We would have a layered missile defense, including our land-based missile defense systems. Then we would go in, and the first thing we would do is knock out their air defense capability, and then a massive strike to take out all of their artillery positions, all of their rockets, and all those positions on the ground to prevent a strike against Seoul. You know, again, there are options that are on the table, I'm sure, that we are not aware of.
Right. I'm sure there are too, but by the same token, Steve, we've heard about these embedded artillery positions, and let's not forget North Korea with a 1 million-man army, another 5 million in reserve. You know, I think the last thing anybody wants to see is a conventional war. As much as we're afraid of nuclear war, it seems like North Korea may pose a greater threat, at least to their southern neighbor, on a conventional war side.
Yeah, they have the ability in pretty short order to put an awful lot of steel on South Korea. I think if we were going to do that, we'd have to hit them, their air defense and the artillery, almost simultaneously, which puts our pilots at risk. But we're going to have to protect ourselves at this time as well. Leah mentioned the missile defense, particularly with regard to Hawaii. We've got to upgrade their status right now with existing systems that need to be moved there, or we're taking a heck of a lot of risk. Nobody wants war, but that could be an option, and I feel Secretary Mattis probably has that plan in hand and would be ready to go when the president tells them to. Well,
certainly the drum beats of war, you can faintly hear them in the back, and each successive missile launch by North Korea, exploding a much more powerful nuclear weapon, it makes it feel like it's unavoidable. And of course, they talked about Guam as being a potential target. So do you think we go through the, through the whole thing with China, or do you think President Trump said he would never show his hand? Is it something we could surprise the world and do when no one's expecting it? Well,
it's absolutely something that we could surprise the world and do when no one's expecting it. And I'll say that when you look at how we would go in and make such an attack, we have a standoff capability. In an F-18, I can